Hey everybody, Tony Winston here for Jazz Piano College. A viewer has asked me to make a deep dive into the diminished scale. So I'm going to play the bridge of Have You Met Miss Jones, and I'm going to use the diminished scale on every 5 chord. That's every dominant 7th chord. So let's see, the song starts, how does that song go? All right, how's that song go now? Here we go. All right, played a lot of diminished scales in there on the 2-5-1s. Now, down in the description, I have a PDF, and it's real easy. Just hit the link, and the PDF will come right up. No going to a website or anything like that. And there are 3 pages. The first page I'm going to go over right now, and it's called Diminished Scale Technology. Okay, the diminished scale is an 8-note scale. And the recurring pattern is, and let's see, I'm going to start on C sharp, I think. The recurring pattern is you go a whole step, then a half step, a whole step, then a half step, a whole, a half. All right, just like that. And you will see that if you started on this note, you'd get the exact same scale, right? Or if you started up here, you're going to get the same scale. So there's really only 3 diminished scales, the one that starts here, the one that starts there, and the one that starts there. By the time you get here, they repeat. Okay, letter B. The diminished scale works well with diminished chords and dominant 7th chords. Yes, that is correct. So let's take a C sharp diminished chord. All right. And I was just reading this book, Improvising Jazz by Jerry Coker. It's been around for a long time, I think from the 1960s. Yeah, 1964. And he's got a whole chapter. It's a short chapter, but he's got a whole chapter devoted to the diminished scale. And what he says is, these are not connecting tones, these little notes in between. They're actually part of the chord, because in any diminished chord, you can add a note that's a whole step above one of the chord tones. And you hear this all the time in jazz standards, like take The Song Is You. Right there, you've got E flat diminished, and the melody note is a whole step above that chord tone, right? And really, you can add other notes that are a whole step above a chord tone. Like I could put this note in because it's a whole step above that. So it might not sound that great, but it actually is legal. It's another one that would work. Yeah, see, I put a whole step above the D there. In fact, if you want to get crazy about it, you could add a whole step above this one and all of them like this. Like that. And that's a legal chord. I mean, it sounds pretty good. It's really too rich to use in almost any situation, but right? Okay, that's legal harmony, but not recommended. But adding a couple of those whole tone extensions, whole tone extensions, they call them. So, like we're saying now in letter B, the diminished scale works well with diminished chords. And all these notes that are not chord tones are whole tone extensions above the chord tone. Okay? And think about this now. Suppose it was a C7th chord, and this note was the flat 9. You still have that diminished chord, so this is why over a dominant 7th chord, the diminished scale sounds good. And you can think of it as starting right on C with a half step, or you can think about your theoretically correct diminished scale that starts on the flat 9 and goes a whole step. I think it's easier just to think about starting with a half step there. If it's a diminished chord, start with a whole step. Okay? And you're starting at a different place. If it's a dominant chord, same scale, but from the root, you start with a half step. Okay? And I'll just give you a couple of quick examples here. On the second page of my PDF file down there, I have this little line here. And then here's the diminished scale. All right, and I'll be giving you lots more examples. Okay, letter C, now back on the first page. For diminished chord, build the scale from the root, like C sharp diminished, use, it says D flat, but C sharp, D flat, whatever. E, F sharp, G, A, B flat, right. For a dominant 7th flat 9 chord, build the same scale from the flat 9, or build the scale from the root, but start with a half step, because it gives you the same scale. All right, I think I've covered that now twice. Going on, letter E. Notes that are a whole step above any chord tone may be added to the diminished chord. Right, if you take the diminished chord and you just go up a whole step from any chord tone, you can add those notes to the chord. And like I say, many jazz standards, they use this technique. Can I think of another one? No, not right off the bat. So you got a diminished chord, whole step above A. That's the song Bewitched. And then letter F, there are only 3 unique diminished scales. So let's go over them. The first one I ever learned, and I just kind of figured this out on my own. I don't know how I came up with it, but I just realized that this was a scale to know. And you see, I'm starting with a half step here. It's really the C sharp diminished scale or the E diminished scale. But I just knew that it worked good over a C dominant chord. And I came up with little patterns. I did stuff like this. I'm talking, 50 years ago that I did this. And, because I'm stupid, I just never explored it in other keys, because I would have quickly realized that, if you do this scale, there's only 2 other ones. So if you learn all 3 of them, you're miles ahead. So anyway, the first one that goes with a C dominant chord, and I'm going to start on a C. And I thought of it as this little shape right here, and then kind of almost the bas relief of that shape, You've got 2 whites and a black. Here you've got 2 blacks and a white, kind of like a negative, a negative, a photographic negative of it or something, So it's the same kind of little shape there. Oh, sorry, wrong chord there. It doesn't fit that chord. And of course, you see it has the flat 9. It has the sharp 9. It has the 3rd of the C7 chord. It has a sharp 11, has the 5th, has the 6th, or we'll call that the 13th, the dominant 7th, or the flat 7, and the root. So it works out really nicely. And, the nice thing is it always kind of leads you to the next scale, like in this case it would be F, with like a half step. So, well, it didn't do it that one. So you got a half step going to A, the F major there. Or let me see if I can make it work out another way. See, half step going into it. That doesn't always work out that way, but many times it does. And that's a desirable thing, from going from one scale to another, to have a little chromatic connection. Chromatic connection. So, we've got this one for the C sharp diminished chord or the C dominant. Let's go up a half step and look at D diminished. Okay, starts with 4 white keys. That's good. And then we've got another little shape there, and then back to these. Remember, it's an 8-note scale, so and then 4 more notes. Okay, fingering can be a little tricky on these scales. Usually just using fingers 1, 2, and 3 will get you there. See, only 3 fingers. Look, Mom, only 3 fingers. All right, next one, E flat diminished. All right, so we've got kind of that same little kind of shape here. And then look, 4 white keys. All right, so. And like I said, if you just lowered the bottom note there, you'd have D7. Think about that E flat again as the flat 9, and that's the scale for the dominant 7th chord, right? All right. And the one we did before was D diminished, right? Started with those 4 white keys, then this. That would work for D flat. Or it would work for any of the illegitimate brothers and sisters. I don't think Barry Harris called them illegitimate siblings, but anyway, they're related. Is not only D, but E, G, and B flat, all using the same scale. Right, so that means a 2, 5, 1, in those 4 different keys, you're going to use the same diminished scale. So, the diminished scale I'm going to be focusing on is this one. To me, I don't know, that's just the easiest one for some reason, because it's different than the other 2. I don't know. But we use it for C dominant, E flat dominant, F sharp, and A. It's the same scale, just starting in different spots of that scale. And if I was doing 2, 5, 1s, the 5 chord is the C, so a 2, 5, 1 in F is going to use this scale. Let's do it. All right, and here comes C7. All right, to F. Now, up a 3rd is A flat, so a 2, 5, 1 in the key of A flat is going to start with a B flat minor. And here comes the diminished scale on E flat. See, there it is. There's that little shape. And we end up on A flat, okay? Now, B, all right? Nobody likes to play in the key of B, but if you know this diminished scale, it'll be a hell of a lot easier. So the 2 chord would be C sharp minor. And look, B is an easy scale for the fingers. All those black keys. And then here we go, F sharp, back to B. Let's do that one again. Okay, and also D, same way. And if you're using a rootless voicing like this, you can go to a diminished chord like that. See, this is E minor to A7 with a flat 9 to D. So right there you can see the diminished chord, and if you can't remember which scale to use, just take any one of those and go a whole step, right? If you're thinking D now, you can go a half step. No, wait a minute. What chord am I playing? Oh yeah, I'm in D. I'm on A7th, all right? So you can look at the diminished chord, all right, go a whole step from any of the notes in the diminished chord. Or if you're thinking A7, you start there and do a half step, right, to get to a chord tone. Okay, so now many times I'm sure you've heard this little chord thing here. So I'm going to do a 2, 5, 1 in F, but I'm going to do it real fancy. I'm going to do G minor like this. All right, with some drop 2. All right, you don't have to do that. Just play a G minor. And then for my C chord, I'm going to do this. Right into F, okay? You got to admit that sounds pretty damn slick. Or you could go down, I suppose, like this. You could go. I'm not as good going down. And when you practice these things, don't do what I did and just go up all the time. Learn them coming down. And what is this, okay? Now, you know, I'm in the key of F. I've got a C chord here for my dominant chord. I'm putting the flat 9 in right there. Every note here is in the diminished scale. Right? All right, so in fact, everything is part of that diminished chord except for the C, which is a whole step extension. All right? And this is just a great chord voicing for a C chord. And you can take it up in minor thirds. So up in minor thirds means I'll be doing a diminished chord here. C, E flat, G flat, A. 3 major triads. 4 actually. And ends up right in F. And you don't have to play all 4 of them, you know, you could go. Oops, where'd I go wrong? Oh. Yeah, I was, see, I've kind of developed my own thing, you know. Instead of doing that one, sometimes I move up there ahead of time and then go up. Right? It's not as dissonant, but it's a kind of a cool effect. But forget that. Let's go back to what we were doing. Right? G minor. And then, what was it? Yeah. Yeah, using chords from that series. And there's only 3 sets of these. You got the first one. And go up a half step. Go up another half step. What the hell is it? Yeah. And then when you get to here, you're back where you started, you see? So if you learn and go maybe 2 octaves worth, that way you really cover it. And if you can come down too, then you'll be way ahead of the game. Let's see, this is where I'm going to screw up here. Okay. On to page 3, diminished patterns. And this came from... I believe the fellow's name is Stephen Anderson, and he teaches, or he used to, I don't know if he still does, a summer camp, jazz summer camp for like high school students. And one of my students went to that camp and came back with lots of good printed out material here. So sorry, Steve, I just took it and used it as my own. You know, that's the way things are in the age of the internet. But anyway, he's got some great diminished patterns here. And I just now noticed up in the corner here, he's got like all the different chords that these patterns will work with. And I see it's C sharp diminished, E diminished, G diminished, B flat diminished, or the 4 dominants that will have those diminished chords kind of built in. You know, if you have the flat 9, so C7, E flat 7, F sharp 7, and A7. So these patterns will work over any of those 8 chords. And then if you learn these patterns like in the other 2 positions, you know, you're covered for all 12 keys. And that's the beautiful thing. All right, so here we go. First pattern. And I'm just going to, since I'm using it as a dominant 7th chord, I'm just going to go right into F at the end. Now, these are 2 measures worth, so a lot of times you won't have time to play all this. You can do them as 16th notes and get them all in there. So like a G minor, and then here we go. All right, so I just did 1 measure of it that time and ended on F. Now, if I was using it on an E flat chord, I could do the same pattern really. So I'll start on B flat. See, worked out perfectly on E flat too. Same exact notes. I didn't even move it up a third or anything. I just used it just as written. Right? I could have done the same thing with F sharp moving to B flat. Am I doing it right? Yeah, right. Here's O. Here we go. See, that exact same phrase works in, 3 kind of unrelated keys, right? B is not exactly like the key of F, is it? No, it's pretty unrelated. But, that's how this system works. All right, number 2, here we go. All right, seems almost the same, but just drop down by a minor third from where you started, down to A, down to F sharp. Now, I've been messing around on these black and whites for, 60 years. So, you're not going to find them as quickly as I can find them. But, young people, if you're a teenager, a young adult, in your 20s or something, you can learn this stuff really fast. And I didn't learn this stuff until after the age of 30. So it's pretty ingrained in me now. But you can get this stuff and you can, catch up to where I am, really quickly. Just focus on it for a while. Okay, so. All right, it's not really where I wanted to end, but, yeah, if I just do half of it, that works out great. All right, on to line number 3. Just using the scale. And look, I'm using those notes as starting notes, I think. And it's okay to put your thumb on a black key. Right? So, like I said, it works in the key of F, works in the key of A flat and B. Let's do one that works in the key of D. So I'll start on E minor and then go right into that pattern. Does that work? Yeah, it absolutely does. All right, the next one. Oh yeah, definitely put your thumb on a black key. Well, not definitely, but if you want to phrase it like that. Yeah, I probably would not put my thumb on a black key there. Fingering has evolved over the years, and it used to be that you would avoid putting your thumb on a black key, but nowadays we don't look at it really the same way anymore. So, a lot of times you can find easier ways to finger things than it might say in the book just by putting your thumb on a black key. And if it works out, that's great. If not, if it's a simple way to avoid the thumb on the black key, then do it. But it would work okay with the thumb too. Right there. Okay, that pattern's kind of easy to work on. Here's another one. All right. Now, obviously, you're probably not going to use all of that, but you could just use any little piece of it. Like this number 5 here is on 2 different lines here. So I'm just going to divide it up into 4 sections and show you that each piece will work. So we're starting on G minor, and then here's our C7th chord. All right, that was the first little bit, and I'll do it again with the next part. It worked out really nicely. Let me do the third one now. Sorry. All right, that one's okay. Let me do the last one. Right, and the same thing would work if I was doing 2 5/1s in the key of A flat, and I'll just do a couple like that. So here's B flat. How can I do this? Now, let's see. Let me do it down here. No, I want to play a solid chord there, so I'll just start like this. Do it like that, okay? So B flat. All right, that's the first piece. Here's the second piece. That one worked great. That one worked fine. And that one worked pretty good too. Okay, number 6. Oh yeah. Pretty nice pattern there. I don't think I've ever used this one myself. Nice, as triplets, and putting the thumb on the black key lets you use the same fingering on each one. 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. You might try them coming down, Might work that way too. All right, here's kind of the same thing. You got the same pattern plus that. It's like a C chord with that in it. All right, think back to this. All right, kind of the same thing. Another good place to put your thumb on a black key. Though I'm sure there's other fingerings that would be just as good. Yeah, do it the way you like. Almost the same, just extending out a little bit further, right? So same chord again. It's this chord, right? C sharp diminished. You can kind of almost think of this as like a blues thing. All right, so let's see if that works. Right, all right, I'll do it again using the second half of it. Oh, shit, did I goof it up there? Oh, that line is missing. That looks like an F sharp. That's really a D sharp up there. Bad printing job there. So sorry about that. So it's there's the F sharp. All right, let's go on to another one. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Or, I don't know, I don't like that one as much, but in the right context, I'm sure it would be fine. Here's one with just some triads like this. Yeah, realizing that there's 4 major triads in the diminished scale can really help you. You can really come up with some great ideas. See, 4 triads: A, F sharp, E flat, C. And you can do them in a weird way. You could go like that, something, right? C, A. What's the next one? Yeah. Right. You hear Chick Corea using this stuff too. You go. Right, it's kind of using almost all of the diminished scale, but just that, and he uses those chords too. And it comes in that locked hand style when you're doing like. See, that's a lot like this thing. In fact, it really is the same thing. There's the C, there's that note, right? So you got. Go down a third, minor third. Now, this last one, number 11, really taught me something kind of interesting. It uses 2 passing tones that are not in the diminished scale. So, so here it is. It's like, and here's my C7. So I'm going to go, and you would think that. Well, see, those are the whole step extensions. See, from G and B flat. So G up there and B flat up there. All right. So this is okay. This is okay. But that's not okay. However, it's in this line. So. See. It really? So you just kind of it defies logic, but it sounds kind of cool. I'll have to do some further study on that one, my friends, that's for sure. Okay, now you can make up your own patterns. It's pretty simple, right? Look at some of the things that just exist, right? You got like the top half of the Mixolydian scale. Just do that in the 4 related keys, all right? Or change the notes around, go like that or something. You can come up with lots of cool ideas. Right? Look, a sharp 9 chord just moved up in minor thirds, and it'll sound cool. I mean, you don't want to fill your solos with this stuff, but every once in a while it can really, really knock people's socks off. Ah. Let's see what's another one I can think of. Yeah, so just taking that chord with a little thing like that, just think of it in A, and think of it in F sharp and E flat, and that'll make a nice line. I made this video earlier and my camera up there was all crooked. So this is like the 3rd time I've made this video. So I am just worn out. So please give me a thumbs up and that will just lift my spirits so much. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel over on Patreon, I have so many wonderful Patreon subscribers and I do put things up for them exclusively from time to time. And last month, I gave them all a free month because, I have to put a video up and then charge them for that video. And I put several videos up and never hit that button to charge them because I wanted to give them a free month. Hey, why not, They've been good to me. I should be good to them. So anyway, until we meet again, folks, Tony Winston, Jazz Piano College, signing off.